Hi everyone. Um, this lecture, video-based one, is on the creation of universe, and it's according to the Bible. So it is a biblical story, but really it's not very different from the Quranic one. For all of the details and messages are basically the same. Anyway, as you all know, God created the universe in 7 days. Um, I can't tell exactly what the number itself represents, since some numbers in all cultures and in all traditions hold some or have some kind of significance, like number 1 or 3 or 5 or even 12. For the Shia, it's the 12 Imams, and for in Christianity, it's the 12 disciples or the followers of Jesus the Christ. Again, God created the universe in 7 days. Um, it was his choice. It could have been 8, it could have been 4, but this is something not to our own interest or even to our own knowledge. So let it be 7, and it was 7. So in day 1, God created light and called it day, and he also created darkness and called it night. But there is an idea of good versus bad, for light represents good things and dark represents bad things. And this principle, this contrariness, uh, good versus bad, light versus dark, is a very basic or central principle, not just in the Bible, but in the Quran itself and in all religious traditions. The day 2, God created an expanse like an open space, and he separated the waters and called it sky. And sky itself is also of high significance. It represents the open space, the thing we really don't know too much about. So you can think of it this way: Earth versus sky, the space we live on or in, the one we realize and we have been trying to know and to use. We know of its geography, of its climate, of its conditions, but the sky is the unknown, and it has been what eventually leading towards creativity, towards engagement in science and knowledge. Uh, Human beings have been trying to explore the outer space for years now, and it's still like, you know beyond our minds, our knowledge, and we have been trying, but really far away from realizing exactly what this sky represents, physically or even spiritually. But I think you may have to involve this sense of openness, this sense of infinity, this sense of the unknown in the word sky. In day 3, God created the dry ground, and he called it land, and he also gathered waters and called them seas. And he also created vegetations, and that's plants, trees, grass, whatever. And I may think myself of the idea of food. We are living creatures, and we need food to survive, and that's something vegetation provides or gives or makes possible. In day 4, God created the sun and the moon and the stars, and that's to give light to the earth. Why Earth? Because Earth is the center. And this idea of God, of Earth is the center has been so dominant in all cultures. And with the Renaissance and with the Enlightenment, age, and with the great entrance in Greek philosophy and science and stuff, there was a point in history where Earth was no longer the center, and it's in the center in the Bible because for two reasons. Number one, that's the only place we know of that there is a possibility of living. So it's the only planet, as far as we know, that there is some kind of life exists on it. And because of man himself, man is the center in the Bible. And aside God, everything is about man. He's the one who controls. He's the one who decides. He's the one who rules over. He's the one with mind. He's the one with reason. He's the one who explores and invents and stuff. So it's not the earth itself, but the idea also of man, since he's the one living and ruling over earth in one way or another. And in this day, which is day 4, God not just created these stars and moon and sun, but it marks also the beginning of seasons and years and days. So the sense of time, or the principle of time, was established at this moment, and time is very significant in history. It's existence. There is no life without time, and death is eventually the end of something or someone's life. So you have to look at the Bible and read it, not just to stop at the explicit expressions, but you have to be aware of what can be implicit or indirect. And in this sense, the idea of seasons and stuff is actually the idea of time, and the idea of time is the idea of existence. In day 5, God created every living creature of the seas and birds, and he blessed them, and he wanted them to multiply, to get larger in numbers, and to fill the waters and to fill the sky. And I think of it again of life. So this is living. Part of it is giving birth. Part of it is generating, is producing. So I can see it this way, that in day 5, God was establishing the principle of living, or the principle of life. In day 6, God created all animals, and he also created Adam, man, and he created woman, Eve. He created them in his own image, but we shouldn't think of it like as we think of our own image or physical appearance. So you can't think of God of having a face like my face or your face or some sort of animal's face. This is something very metaphysical. This is something very beyond our knowledge, our thinking limits, and our perceptions. The same for like Yadullah fawqa aydihim. It evokes, or it involves authority or power, not just the physical body part, something like this. So when you think of God's hand, you can't think of fingers or something like this. So again, the comparison cannot be justified. God created Adam in his own image. It may involve the idea of perfection, since God is the perfect, or the idea of like dignity, the idea of power. We know of the words in the Quran. We created man in the best design. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. So the image involves the qualities, not the physical appearance or the physical features or something like this. And he created Adam because he needed someone to commune with, but that's kind of love and passion, and there is some sense of uniqueness because God wanted Adam to be with, but doesn't mean always that God felt alone. Because again, this is something we experience. We feel alone sometimes when we leave our people or our friends, or we're living somewhere with no family. This is not the idea, but I think of it in terms of uniqueness. It's like God wanted to see his majesty, his perfection, his great achievement in Adam, and he wanted him to rule over. So he gave him authority, he gave him power, and he wanted him to care for. And caring is not just the physical. Again, it's emotional. We are fathers. We feed our kids, but our kids need also love and passion and emotional support, and he wanted him to cultivate. That's basically to farm. And by the way, farming, we're talking about, according to the science, not to the Bible, farming is a human activity which started around 10,000 years ago, and it marked a turning point, a lucky break in human history. It came with significant changes in civilizations in general. So the idea of cultivation or farming, it's a very basic activity, not just in the Bible, but it's in history, because it was really a very great achievement when man began to know how to farm. In day 7, God finished his work and he got to rest. So, but you can think of it as someone going to his bed or lying down somewhere on the sofa. Rest in God's perspective is something we don't know. It's again metaphysical. It's beyond our perspectives or perceptions or conceptions or limits. Why God wanted to rest? So it's not he was tired, but I think of it in these two manners, or in these two ways. Number one, God was establishing the idea of the beginning and an end, since everything has a starting point and has a finishing point. A project, work, life itself, everything starts at certain point and ends at certain point. And also the second one is you feel okay, you feel happy, pleased and proud when you finish something, when you accomplish something. So God was also establishing this sense of like pleasure. If you go to study skills and you go to time management, there is something you do to manage your time, and that's it, to have a schedule. And one of the parts of schedule, other than tasks like missions, the things you have to do, and priorities, the things that are urgent or very important, and time, there is this section of done. So you check it or you click on it, and it gives you a sense of pleasure, like you have achieved something or you have done something. And again, and in general, God created the universe in his own way. All these stories are very traditional, very religious. You can't think of them always rationally, because that's not the case. And it comes to issue of faith. So this is something you believe in, something you don't believe in. What matters to you is you understand it and you be aware of it. Okay? Thank you so much.